The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, along with Sue 𝐂𝐚𝐦𝐩. This is the show where we talk about everything happening in the world of pop culture. Great guest today. Actress Anna Camp will join us. She's been in True Blood, the Pitch Perfect movies, Mad Men, so many great roles. And she's got a new show on Peacock called Hysteria that we will talk about. In the meantime, Sue, what's going on? How you been?
I've been good. I just wanted to tell you that I finally got to see the episode with Hodor, the door.
Oh, you did? You made it to that episode?
Last night.
So we just talked to Christian there, and in fact, that podcast is out now. So what's your takeaway from watching The Door, that big episode of Thrones?
Well, you know, all this back and forth, which in some ways it's like, I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact that we see Hodor as a younger man, you know?
Yeah.
And he's saying, hold the door, hold the door, hold the door. So it's like, right? Right? I mean, it's
hold door, hold door, hold door. Yeah, it goes from hold the door to Hodor.
Hodor. And it's like, what's crazy to me is that he's saying that when he's younger, and what's he referencing that he's saying that?
See, I think he's referencing the future, that on some level he knows that that is going to be something that he's going to need to do.
Yeah.
And in thinking about it repetitively, you know, in this sort of metaphysical way, hold the door, hold the door, hold the door, hold door, hold door. It's the way it winds up. Yeah, it's a hard one to wrap your head around, but the episode is so emotional. So what season are you in now? You're watching Game of Thrones. What season?
6.
Wow. So you're getting there.
Oh, God.
You know, winter's coming. Did you hear the news? Winter is coming.
It's been coming for the past 20 years. Yes, and that's always the joke with Tom and I, you know. Oh, it's a little cold in here. Winter is coming. You know?
Oh, is Tom watching it?
Oh, totally.
Oh, is Tom into it?
Oh, we're addicted to it.
Oh, that is awesome.
Like, I haven't watched anything else except for some of the things that I've had to watch. You know,
right.
usually I take a break because there's shows that have come back, like Soul Horses is back.
Yep.
And My Beautiful Friend is back on HBO.
Yeah.
And normally those would have been the shows I would watch, but I can't break away from this.
We call that a show hole. You fall into a show hole. You're just like, it's all. I did that with Game of Thrones, where I watched the entire series in about 2 weeks. And I was just constantly going back to it and going back to it. It's addictive.
And I can't wait for certain people to die. Like, every time there's like this horrific character, and there are many of them.
Yes,
I'm
there
like,
are.
Oh my God, this death is going to be brutal. You know, like Joffrey. I couldn't wait for Joffrey.
Got it.
Hated Joffrey.
What a little prick. Joffrey's a little prick.
My new guy that I can't wait to die is Ramsay.
Oh, Ramsay's the worst. Ramsay is the worst.
So evil. I hate him so much.
Yeah, I'll give you a hint. He doesn't wind up sitting on the Iron Throne. That's all I'll say.
Oh, well, I didn't think that was going to happen anyway.
It's never going to. It's not happening.
Yeah.
It's definitely not happening.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's in line for the throne.
Oh, God, he's so evil.
Oh, he's creepy. He's creepy. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you're into it. Oh, are you watching anything else? Like, I'm watching Industry. I am so into Industry, that show. Have you watched it?
No, I'm not watching anything else but this.
Oh, just this.
And the Mets. I'm watching baseball.
Yeah.
And I'm watching news.
Yes.
And well, I just watched the show that we're going to talk about.
So you haven't even watched Slow Horses?
I haven't watched the beginning of the new season. No.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've got a balanced diet right now. I've got Only Murders in the Building, Industry, and the Aaron Hernandez series on
that's
FX.
I'm probably going to start watching that tonight.
That is super creepy also.
Oh, God. When that's,
but it's the backstory of it is amazing. And we'll get to all that because I think we're going to talk to some people from that show. So new season of Dancing with the Stars is underway now. I always mark my calendar. When does Dancing with the Stars start? Because I've got to set aside time, like every middle-aged woman in America, to watch Dancing with the Stars. Doesn't everybody's mom still love Dancing with the Stars?
I would assume.
It's designed for moms.
Yes, I guess. And maybe, and I think a lot of gay guys probably watch it too.
Probably do. So there's a special dancer who has now been eliminated. Her name is Anna Delvey. So who is Anna Delvey? Well, if you ever watched the series Inventing Anna on Netflix, Julia Garner plays her so well. She is a scam artist, a con artist. She did all kinds of stuff to elevate herself as an heiress, even though she's not one. She's a fake heiress. And now the grand prize, after 2 years in prison, she leaves wearing an ankle monitor and she goes to Dancing with the Stars.
And she gets permission from ICE. She's been under house arrest since she was released from prison, like, a couple of years ago?
Yes.
And that's 24 hours. So how does she get permission to be on this competition show?
Right, because her case is now an immigration case, right?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Whether or not she's allowed to stay in the country. I guess if she could get a work permit to go on Dancing with the Stars, maybe.
No, but she's under 24-hour house arrest.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so
I don't know.
I don't understand how she got permission to do this. I tell you, the sick thing apart from all of this is that I saw a clip where she was interviewed by some entertainment reporter, and she's standing there with her dance partner, and the woman says, "All right, well, we have to address the elephant in the room. You're wearing an ankle monitor," and she says, "Can I touch it?" And I'm like, "What? It's like romantic.
Touch it?
Like romanticizing or glorifying that she's wearing."
So it is. You're right. It is glorifying the ankle bracelet.
And the ankle bracelet, she bedazzled to match her costume.
Yeah, I know. You're right. And it does elevate somebody who should not be elevated, celebrate something that should not be celebrated. Even in the promos that I've seen, and by the way, she's been eliminated. She can't cha-cha at all. I watched her routine. But they're focusing on the ankle monitor like that's something to cheer about.
Like that's cool. Like, what does she show up for her court date in an orange jumpsuit with like pearls? I mean, it's like wearing a brooch. But I was joking with Tom, and I said, "Yeah, I saw a clip," and I said, "Yeah, her dancing wasn't that bad," and he said, "Well, she probably was a good dancer. She got on the show," and I said, "Well, she's a really good dancer. She danced her way out of house arrest to be on the show."
Right. Danced away from the authorities.
But
she's gone now.
It really is the whole idea of the show and calling it stars. And then you have people like, I know this was years ago, but you have guys like Sean Spicer on, and it's not accurate. They're not stars. They're just people that were in the news. There are stars, but most of it is people that were in the news for one reason or another. And she happens to be a convicted. It was felony, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. She did 2.5 years of a 12-year sentence, and she got paroled for good behavior.
So anybody that can do something, insidious, is an option for a dance partner on a show.
It's like fame culture. It's like celebrity culture, and now people get celebrated for being awful. It's like the Real Housewives. They're awful people. I mean, I don't watch it. Juan watches it, so I see it in the background. they're all awful people shrieking at each other and throwing things and pulling out weaves and all this stuff. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And this is, okay, so I think that this is part of the coarsening of society. In other words, if you watch a show where women throw glasses of wine at each other, you all of a sudden feel like, oh, well, that's just the way the world is. I'll be super dramatic too. I think people take cues from terrible behavior on shows like that.
Well, yeah, they're honoring and celebrating bad behavior. It's like having an insurrectionist on the show.
Right.
Seriously,
Yeah.
Because maybe they're kind of good looking.
Yeah, right, right.
Know? Yeah.
Well, I hope we don't see one on Dancing with the Stars. You never know. All right, so there's a movie that a couple weeks, you watched it yesterday. I watched it a couple weeks ago, but it was the #1 streaming movie on Netflix. It's called The Union. It stars Mark Wahlberg and Halle Berry. He's like this construction guy who all of a sudden gets grabbed by Halle Berry, and the next thing you know, he's part of this thing called the Union, and they're trying to, solve a crime, whatever they're doing. They're chasing all across Europe. Sue, #1 streaming movie on Netflix. What did you think?
There was a certain sweetness about it because of the relationship between the two of them. I thought their chemistry was really good. I thought their chemistry was great. I thought the action sequences were great. It was kind of like, I don't know, poor man's Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
That's actually a good way to describe it. Poor man's Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Yeah, I got to be honest. Netflix releases a lot of these movies. We never hear about most of them. I found the place where you can find what's streaming the most, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular movie. I thought it was totally and completely lame. I didn't buy any of it.
The premise of it is completely lame. Like, they would never, ever hire someone like him, like somebody, some obscure guy who had a relationship with one of their people, their
right.
CIA-ish people, to bring him in such a dangerous job. And then the jokes, it's like, if you are running away from people or you're in a high-speed chase, these like asides, these kind of like light asides, that they
it's
banter
like snarky
back.
little jokey things. Yeah.
While someone's hanging out of a car or somebody is being, is about to be strangled, with the cord from the faucet sink and things like that. And this is another one of my pet peeves. Halle Berry is wearing heeled boots and then running all over and jumping off of buildings, and it's like it becomes like a fashion thing. It's like, there's no way in the world she'd be wearing shoes like that. And then wearing this like wool cap, and it's off to the side, and she's got a little bit of hair that
it's just
out,
perfectly placed. Yeah.
Perfectly placed. Things like that really, really bug me.
So here's what I don't understand. #1 streaming movie in the world. It's 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience score is worse. It's 23%, and yet everybody seems to have watched it. A lot of people seem to have liked it. It's clearly set up for a sequel or to be a series, and Netflix is absolutely going to go that way because I guess streaming numbers are all that matters, right?
Right. Well, I guess it's a testament to Mark Wahlberg and Halle Berry, but mostly Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg gets people in the doors. There's no question about that. And he's a super likable, really, I've always been a really big fan. You know where I thought he got overlooked was for the movie The Fighter, which is a great picture. David O. Russell movie. He plays Mickey Ward. So this is the way I look at it. There are certain people in movies and TV shows that play the bird, the character that gets attention. Like Miss Melissa Leo in that movie was a bird.
And
right?
she won the Academy Award.
Christian Bale was a bird, and he won the Academy Award. Mark
Right.
Wahlberg is just like the tent pole of a movie. He's like he's like who would he be, like the Jimmy Stewart of his generation, in that he's never the guy that gets all the lines or does all the action or is the bird, but he's like the great solid guy to build around. Kind of the straight man, kind of like that. So I'll tell you a story. When that movie came out, I was running the movie theaters in Palm Springs, the cinemas Palm d'Or. And we were always trying to do like really cool Q&As. We had a great audience out there, great patrons, people that loved the movie theater. So when The Fighter came out, we flew Mickey Ward, the real Mickey Ward, out to Palm Springs, and we did a Q&A with him. And he could not have been a cooler guy. And he was so, like, I walked by him and he was getting his picture taken with a palm tree. And he said to his friend, "Get a picture of me with this tree." And I thought, that is so cool. Like, you've never been where there are palm trees. So that was but The Fighter, Mark Wahlberg. I'm trying to think, what other movies Mark Wahlberg movies.
I haven't.
Ted is so funny.
Yeah, it was a fun movie. I haven't really watched a lot of his movies, but whenever I have seen him, he is just a very likable guy.
Yeah, don't sleep on Ted. That's a funny ass movie.
Okay.
I think it's a TV show now.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, they turned it into a TV show. All right, well, there you are. That's interesting. Yeah, so a little Dancing with the Stars, a little Mark Wahlberg. If you watched The Union and you loved it, I hope you're not offended by the fact that I said it's lame. All right, if you are watching or listening to the show right now, don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, smash the like button right down there and subscribe to the channel. You can leave us any kind of comment, any kind of review. You want to react to me saying The Union is lame, or maybe you are a big fan of Anna Delvey and didn't think she should have been voted off so early. Whatever that is, you can leave that comment. If you're listening on Apple or on Spotify, subscribe to the show. Big points if you leave us a 5-star rating and a good review. And if you got a friend who would appreciate the Culture Pop podcast, you know who you're talking about here. Tell them about it. We're always looking for more viewers and more listeners. All right, here we go. Our guest today had her breakthrough role in True Blood, in which she played the villainous Sarah Newland. Then came the Pitch Perfect movies, which were huge at the box office. She had a recurring role on Mad Men. She starred in Woody Allen's Cafe Society. And now she is starring in the new Peacock series, Hysteria, which premieres October the 18th. Anna Camp joins us. Anna, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about Hysteria. I had the best time filming, and I hope everybody loves it.
So we got to watch it, which it's so much fun. It's scary. It's perfect for Halloween season. It feels like it's in the great tradition of horror movies that we've seen over the years. There are lots of surprises. I'm not going to give any of them away. How do you describe the show?
Well, you know, it's a thriller. It's a mystery. There's some horror elements. It's also a psychological thriller at times. And I think it's set against this amazing, really visual, fantastic backdrop of the Satanic Panic in the 80s. You've got this amazing rock and roll versus religion, which I also think is incredibly exciting. You've got a high school coming of age story. You also have themes about what it means to be a parent and a mother and how to let your child grow up into the world and face the evils of the world. I mean, there's so much going on here, but it's really interwoven in a very creative and fascinating way. And there's cliffhangers every episode. I mean, I was hooked after reading the pilot. I was like, tell me what happens. I need to know. I'm so excited. So I was thrilled to be a part of it.
It's like a sci-fi Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yes, that's great. That's a great reference point. Yes. Love that movie, by the way. But exactly, I think that they can, like Matt Scott Kane, who created the show and showran, I think he combined so many wonderful elements and made this like Hysteria, like something onto its own. But yeah, definitely. That's a wonderful way to put it.
So watching Hysteria took me back to my first date, believe it or not.
Tell me more.
It was with Sherry Heineman, and we went to see Friday the 13th at the Southwick 8 movie theaters in Maumee, Ohio, and I ended up holding Sherry's hand, which was such a big deal.
Steaming.
And it's because it was that vibe, that scary, I got to hold your hand. I don't know what's going to, and I got a lot of that going on in this show.
Definitely. I mean, there's something exciting about that time period and exciting about being in high school, and it's spooky. And there's something, there's definitely like the element of like when you're watching something scary, right? You want to cuddle up to the person next to you. You don't want to watch it alone. This collective experience of watching something spooky, especially at Halloween season, I think it's the perfect time for our show to come out. And I think it evokes this real kind of nostalgia for that time period. And it's shot almost like an 80s horror movie. Like
it is. By the way, it feels so Wes Craven which is high praise, but it's got that sort of feeling to it.
Even the credits when it comes on, and like the first time you see the 80s Universal, logo come up, it's a really kind of it transports you into another time, into another world. And hopefully you can just sit on your couch with some people or even by yourself and kind of be transformed back into the 80s and get caught up.
Or Sherry Heineman, wherever she is right now. She would probably love this show.
Doing very well. And that she's holding someone's hand somewhere.
But what brought me back was that coming of age, being that time in your life when you have a crush on somebody. Like, well, I'll bring up the guy that I was in love with. I was in 9th grade. His name was Roy Tunison. And when I left homeroom to go to my first class, I passed him every day. And he stood like slouched against the wall with 2 of his friends wearing like a green army jacket. I'm Jewish. He was not Jewish. He would definitely be somebody my parents would hate for me to be with.
Right.
But he was a little bit of a bad boy.
Like him even more.
Oh my God. And he was a little bit of a bad boy, and he was so cute, and it was painful. Every time I saw him, I had such a pang for this guy. And then I ended up dating him.
No way. Oh
yes.
My God. Did you date him like years after that, or like relatively like?
I guess it was probably, I think I met him in 8th grade, and then 9th grade is when I started dating him. And it was like, I can't believe I'm dating Roy Tunison. I mean, this was like...
His last name is Tunison. I love it. That is such a great story. It takes you right back to high school and those first love feelings and the crushes that you would have. And like the way it's even shot where it's kind of blurry in the background, like down the hallway in the high school and like the lighting. It has this real kind of memory piece aspect to it. It just feels so transportive. It's just such a wonderful. I loved it. I loved working on it.
So I want to circle back to Hysteria, but can I ask about some of your other work? You've got such an amazing career. Yeah.
You want to talk about? We'll talk about.
So your big break, I think, was in True Blood, and you played Sarah Newland, the major antagonist, one of the villains of the show. Vampires go back to like Dracula and Nosferatu and this idea of drinking blood, living for. Why do you think we have such fascination for that world?
I think that there's something so intriguing about the occult world, right? The unknown. Our imaginations can go wild when we think about other types of creatures out there. Are there people? I mean, these are stories that were written years and years ago. They must be based on some kind of truth, right? So the kind of like hope or longing that there is something out there that is beyond us. I think that that's what drives stories about the occult, stories about supernatural, aliens, all of this. There's this underlying kind of hope that there's more to life than just humans walking around the planet trying to figure things out. And also, I think there's just there's the darkness, the things that we're quote unquote afraid of. I think we're also drawn to, right? Because there's something inside of everybody that is a darker side. I mean, I would assume that everybody has a darkness that perhaps that they are either celebrating or afraid of. And I think that entertainment and these stories allow us to, at least, if we can't approach that and experience that and show that in ourselves, we can at least live through these characters if they're living in a world like that. So I think that it there's just a fascination in that. Like I've always been drawn to horror and scary.
Yeah, me too.
Loved being on True Blood and operating in that world. I was dying for them to turn me into a vampire. I wish they had. I was talking to the creators and writers all the time. I was like, don't you think don't you think she just want? So they wrote in a scene where I asked to be turned into a vampire, but I never actually ended up.
Never got it.
Never got it.
Now, did they give you a reason as far as the storyline and your character why they didn't want you to turn into a vampire?
They did. I mean, they really wanted to keep Sarah the big bad of the season and of the show. I mean, I ended up having like the actual last spoken word of the entire series, which is crazy that happened because I only was supposed to come in for season 2. I didn't even know I was going to be invited back for 2 more episodes and actually turn out to be one of the final big bad villains of the entire series. So they wanted to keep me that, and they weren't ready to have me cross over because they just wanted it to be a clear adversary for the vampires.
You know,
So
I wanted.
can we talk? Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Well, one other thing I wanted to ask you, because you talked about liking scary things and just the unknown and all that. Were you of the age where you were doing Ouija board stuff? Or
I still do it.
No.
Ouija boards.
You do it now?
I have an entire Ouija board, like.
Oh, I got to tell you, when I was a kid, my mom, I got in so much trouble for playing with a Ouija board one time. Oh, yeah, because we were really hardcore Catholics. I was really Catholic in the day. And it was like dealing with things that you didn't, the unknown. And my mom was like, absolutely not.
My mom was the opposite. So I grew up in the South Carolina, and my mother actually, her family business was a funeral home. And, they were telling ghost stories all the time. Their house was actually connected to the funeral home. There were like it was just this like iconic Gothic place to grow up in South Carolina. And they had Ouija boards. And my mom was actually like into it and would talk about the fact that she had seen ghosts come into her bedroom, all of these things. So she wasn't like encouraging us to do it, but she believed. And she thought, don't do anything too crazy. But yeah, she was definitely supportive of us doing the Ouija board. So I loved doing it. I just find it fascinating. I don't know if it's true or not, but, a huge part of me believes.
Yeah. I don't want to be dumb and miss out on talking about Pitch Perfect. So why don't we go? If I was cool and I could sing, I would have been in an a cappella group when I was in high school. It just looks like so much fun. Have you always been able to sing?
I guess so. I never considered myself like a singer by any means. I always said I was like an actor who could like sing if she needed to or dance if she needed to, but acting is first and foremost. But I loved singing. I would sing as a little kid, make up songs, definitely it's something that brings me joy is singing. I don't know if I'm like great at it, but I have fun doing it. Definitely. It's something I enjoy.
So you have quite a range of roles that you've played. And I'm always curious, do you choose a role because there's something familiar, so it's something you can really sink your teeth in because you know it? Or do you choose roles that challenge you more?
I think, great question. I think that it's a combination of both because as an actor in Hollywood, I have a tendency to get typecast. I've been offered a lot of roles that are very similar to Aubrey and Pitch Perfect, say. So I've had to say no to a lot of things because they aren't as challenging. But there are aspects of every character that I do end up taking that they might be people might say that they're a little similar because there's like a type of person or a type of woman that I know very well. And I don't know why I know this type of woman that well, but there's a exterior that they present to the world, right? There's this perfect kind of maybe tightly wound person when underneath they are like bubbling inside and they are repressing all of that. And when I get a script and I talk to a creator or writer that's saying, we're going to give you places to go where you get to unleash all that's burning inside of you, that's when I say that's the role I want. Because I love playing that internal conflict. it's so exciting as an actor to not only play the words on the page, but play all of the subtext that I work on behind the scenes. So what I'm presenting is not actually who I am. So I'm playing two things at once. So I like to look for roles that have that kind of similar thing going.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. You did a Woody Allen movie called Cafe Society.
Yes.
We've talked to actors who have been in Woody Allen movies. What's it like on a Woody Allen set? What was that experience like?
Yeah, I will say that I don't know if I would do the movie today. I can actually say that I would not work with him in light of everything that's come out. But
Interesting.
Before everything came out about him, and it was a quick shooting process. I will say I auditioned for him multiple times though, and I got told by my manager, the casting director, they were like, "Don't be worried that if you go in and you audition to meet Woody, it's the quickest audition of your life. It could take less than 5 seconds. He could look at you and be like, I don't want to okay, we're done here." And also they said he doesn't shake hands. So I was really nervous. I was a really young, just graduated college. I go to Woody Allen's apartment and he has a movie theater at the bottom of his apartment. And I'm walking into the big apartment on the Upper West Side. And this woman goes, "Are you here to see Woody?" And I go, "Oh, yeah, how's she know?" She's like, "You're an actress." And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, well, that's Woody. He's right there. He's just a schmo." That's what she said to me. And I was laughing, "Oh my God, this is so funny." And it had been raining and I was having this quintessential New York moment in the rain going to meet Woody Allen. And I go in and there's another actor sitting there and he's nervous too. And they call him in to meet Woody. And as soon as the door closes, it's 1, 2, and the actor comes out. And he looks at me and he goes, he didn't even what just happened? And I was so nervous, oh my God, I'm going to go in and they're going to kick me out. And then they're like, "Anna, they're ready for you." And they call me in and I have my hands down my side because I'm he's not going to shake my hand. That's what I was told. And immediately he puts his hand out to shake.
Wow.
So I'm "Oh, okay. So that's a total lie." So I shook his hand. And then he was like, "Where are you from?" And I go, "Well, I'm from South Carolina, but I just came from Queens because I was living in Queens." And he found that so funny that I said and he laughed. And then we kept talking and talking. And then he gave me the scene to read cold. So we read the scene, and that was actually for Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and I did not that movie. But then I left, and the casting director was like, "Oh my God, Anna, that was one of the best Woody Allen meetings we've had," because he usually kicks everybody out. Didn't hear her for years, for 4 or 5 years. Didn't hear anything. And then I got a call to come in for Cafe Society, and I came to the same apartment, saw Woody again, and he remembered me, and he said, "Queens, right?"
Oh, wow.
That's so cool.
That role. So it was pretty crazy.
That is cool.
So the people that we've talked to that worked with him said that he doesn't give a lot of direction. They always felt like they didn't know if they were doing a good job or not. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct. My scenes were with Jesse Eisenberg, and I remember walking in and he goes, "Anna, just so you know, there's zero rehearsal. There's zero rehearsal. You go on to the set and you shoot. You just shoot the scene." And I remember going, "Oh my God, okay." And Jesse was like, "Anna, let's get our lines down. Let's rehearse." And I was like, "Whatever, of course, yeah, let's do it." And then we go on, and Woody, and it was Woody's coming, and you're just "Oh my God, here goes Woody Allen." And he looks at me and he looks me head to toe, my hair and makeup and everything. And he goes, "So this is you?" And I went, "Yeah, this is me." And he goes, Okay. And then he sits behind the little thing in his little chair and he calls action, and we do the scenes. We do it a couple times. They move the camera around, and I heard him laughing when I was acting. And at one point he went like this.
Interesting. Wow.
Get it. And then that's it. One of my scenes got cut from the movie, but it's because he hated my hat. I heard that he hated the hat so much that he cut the whole scene.
Oh, damn hat.
The
damn hat.
That's my story.
So you've had recurring roles on some really great shows. Some of my favorite shows: Mad Men, The Good Wife, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. What's it like to sort of parachute into a show for a story arc when it's just a really great show and a great cast and a great showrunner and all that stuff?
I mean, it's a dream come true. As an actor, I was the biggest Mad Men fan.
So good.
Ultimate fan. I was watching that show, in love with that show, the script, everything was fantastic. And then I get a call that I have an audition for it. And I like lose my mind. I'm like, oh my God, Anna, you have to get this. I wore my mother's dress from the 60s. I had my mother's dress hanging in the closet. It was an awful black little shift. And I wore that and I go in, and of course the hallway is so many women, like similar dress, whatever. And Matthew Weiner calls me in, and my scene is with a character named Dan in the script. And I remember him going like, so, hi, Anna, nice to meet you. Do you have any questions? And I said, yeah, I'm just curious, who is Dan? And like, what's my relationship? And he goes, don't worry, just play the scene. And I went, okay. And I played the scene. And then he gave me a little note, and I took the note and I did it again. And then he said, thank you so much. I left. I threw my sides in the trash. And I was like, well, at least I got to meet Matthew Weiner, and at least I got to audition. I get a call literally a couple days later that I booked the job. I'm freaking out to the moon. But then I get my actual script. And because the audition sides are they're secret, so all of the characters' names are changed. I'm looking for my scene with Dan, and I'm like, where'd my scene go with Dan that I auditioned for? And then I go, wait a minute, I have a scene with Don. Who's Don? Don.
Oh.
And I went, oh my God, I am Don Draper's first date after his divorce.
That's crazy.
Draper, and I had no idea. No idea. And then I got to do a couple episodes, and I will never forget the realization that my scenes were going to be with Don Draper. It was like a very incredible moment in time. And then to shoot those scenes, obviously, was a dream come true.
I have a friend named Stephanie Drake who played Don's secretary.
Okay.
And she had this super awkward scene where she was kind of going along thinking, well, I'm the secretary. I'm supposed to, kiss the boss. And there was like this really awkward. But I just think to be part of a show like that, kind of a landmark show, for me, one of the 5 greatest shows of all time.
I agree.
And by the way, the ending to that show, the final episode, is the best.
It's
Brilliant.
It's so moving. It's so wonderful. Everything about that show is just beautiful. His relationship with Peggy, also, I love that character.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. It's just the themes were, I could watch that series over and over again and find new things. And as I get older, I think I'll even appreciate it more and more. It's just a timeless, beautifully written show.
Yeah. It was so perfect that he came up with the iconic commercial that everybody had remembered.
Isn't that wild? How?
And by the way, went to Esalen, where I used to go to Esalen a lot.
I've never been there, but I've driven by there all the time. I need to go.
It's so amazing. It's life-changing to go to Esalen. Yeah. I told you we'd circle back to Hysteria. Let's do it. So why, this question in my head, why do you think people like to be scared?
Ooh, the adrenaline rush. I think that's something that people seek out in life, in other aspects. People ride roller coasters for a certain reason. Unfortunately, people do drugs for a certain reason, to feel something, right? Like, because our lives can become so tame at times if you're working a job that you're not interested in, if you're, if you have troubles at home, or it's also a distraction in some way to have this really visceral feeling, right, that we don't get in our everyday lives. So I love the collective horror experience when you go into a movie theater and you're scared with people. Like, that's a fun thing. It is like getting on like a roller coaster together, because the mind can play tricks on you, and to lose control a little bit in that way while still being in control because you are on your couch or in a movie theater. Like, you're still technically in control, but your mind gets to lose control for a little bit. I think we're all seeking that at times, because it's like you feel alive when you feel like you lose control of it. It's fun.
Yeah.
How much did you know about the Satanic Panic before you took on this role?
I didn't know too much, really. I had kind of worked on a show, developing a show with a writer about Tipper Gore a little bit. Like, she tried to get the parental advisory stickers put on like Twisted Sister and Ozzy Osbourne.
That's right.
So I was kind of familiar in that regard, but besides that, I didn't really know too much about it. I mean, I was born in 1982, so I was like, a 6-year-old probably listening to Amy Grant.
the antithesis of heavy metal.
Exactly. Like that's kind of the music that Tracy listens to too. And she was a big Amy Grant fan. She wasn't
right.
Def Leppard or anything like that. But yeah, no, I got some books on it. And I have a book called The Satanic Panic, and it's just a really vibrant time. And it's like the quintessential teenage angsty time. They're like rebellion to excess, right? When it comes to hair and makeup and music. And I just remember seeing Madonna on MTV as a kid with my parents, and my parents turning off the TV because she had that cone bra.
Yeah.
Satanic Panic, but it was like the 80s where my parents were like, don't look at that. And now like that's like the tamest thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Bra, that's nothing.
Nothing. One of the things I will always remember from this show, from Hysteria, is, there's the Michael Myers mask, there's the Jason mask, there's the Scream mask. And I think this mask is the scariest of all masks. This one really creeped me out.
It's really weird, right? That bird-shaped, crazy mask. I know. It gives me chills just thinking about it. I don't know where that came from. Matt Scott Kane's mind.
Yeah.
Done some research on that, but that is an iconic look, right? It just kind of
yes, it is
really spooky. I can't imagine watching that alone at night at my house thinking about
exactly. Well, listen, this has been fantastic. Love getting a few minutes with you. Hysteria will be streaming on Peacock starting October the 18th. It is the perfect show for the Halloween season. This has been fun. Thank you so much for coming on, Anna.
Of course, what a delight talking to you guys. I appreciate it so much.
There you have it. Anna Camp joining us. Hysteria is so much fun. You know what? It reminds me, I mentioned it, like a Wes Craven movie. You got the teenagers and the coming of age, and then you've got the villain. And I mean, it's just really, we're not spoiling anything, but it is a good, fun, scary show.
Yeah. I've never seen her in interview. So
she's delightful.
She's delightful. And I know that she's not her character, but she plays that creepy woman.
Yep.
So perfectly.
Yes.
That when you see her and she's just vivacious and, she's so pretty. Most of the time you see her characters are kind of dowdy,
Right.
Well,
but I mean, like in Pitch Perfect, she's wound so tight and she doesn't want the Bellas to be like all contemporary. And then, of course, the big thing is she has this terrible habit of throwing up. That's what her character winds up doing in Pitch Perfect. Aubrey, I think, is the character name. She's delightful. We loved having her on. Thanks so much to everybody over at Peacock. Again, the show will premiere on October 18th, and it is a good, fun watch. All right, there you have it. There is your Culture Pop podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see everybody next time on the Culture Pop podcast.